Imagine the ground trembling beneath your feet at the crack of dawn, a thunderous growl ripping through the quiet as 10 massive bulldozers encircled my family's cherished legacy acres, sealing off every path, every gate, every sliver of freedom while my horses bucked in terror, their whinnies piercing the air like desperate cries for help, and my little girl, Lily, just 12 years old, stood frozen, watching our world collapse behind a fortress of cold, yellow metal, all orchestrated by this unhinged woman with a megaphone, Victoria Sterling, the iron-fisted president of the Evergreen Meadows HOA, bellowing about fabricated safety hazards, her voice dripping with false authority as exhaust fumes poisoned the crisp morning breeze. Thinking she'd finally cornered us, oblivious to the fact that I'd just been named land use director for the county, a role that handed me the keys to dismantle her greedy scheme with one decisive move, the sheer audacity of it all igniting a fire in my chest, memories of Grandpa's warnings about land thieves flashing like lightning, making me clench my fists as I realized this wasn't just an attack on our farm, but on everything we'd built through blood and sweat, the betrayal feeling personal, like a violation of the sacred trust passed down through generations, stirring a deep-seated determination to protect not only our land, but the very essence of our family's enduring spirit. What would you do if some entitled tyrant turned your ancestral home into a battlefield, holding your dreams and your child's future hostage? Share your stories in the comments, because I know too many of you out there are fighting these suburban overlords, and it's time we talked about it, perhaps even banding together in ways that could turn the tide for all of us, creating networks of support that echo the community bonds of old. Let me pull you back to the roots of this madness. 3 months prior, when I inherited this sprawling 47-acre haven in rural Kentucky from my grandfather, a third-generation spread bursting with organic crops, wandering hens, and majestic draft horses that had roamed these fields long before the cookie-cutter mansions sprouted up like invasive weeds, the kind of place where the fog hugged the earth at sunrise, carrying the earthy scent of fresh soil and my steaming mug of black coffee, where the soft clucks of our heritage birds mingled with the rhythmic snorts of our gentle giants shaking off the night, my rough hands tracing the splintered fence posts he'd hammered in himself, each groove whispering tales of sweat, resilience, and a fierce disdain for meddlers, the soil itself seeming to pulse with the echoes of family gatherings, harvest feasts under starlit skies, and quiet evenings where Grandpa shared stories of weathering economic storms and neighborly betrayals that tested the soul, his voice gravelly from years of hard labor, instilling in me a profound respect for the land's quiet power to heal and sustain. I'd come here to rebuild after a brutal divorce that stripped me bare, leaving debts piling higher than haystacks and a heart wary of human deceit, just me and Lily, piecing together a life from the soil, turning this old farm into our sanctuary while honoring the traditions that had sustained our family for decades, her small hands learning to plant seeds with the same care I'd once shown, forging bonds that mended my broken spirit one sunrise at a time, moments like watching her chase fireflies at dusk becoming anchors in the storm of uncertainty. But fate, or maybe just bad luck mixed with bureaucratic greed, threw a wrench into our peace when a recent county redistricting quietly nudged part of our land into the clutches of the Evergreen Meadows HOA, a realm of uniform lawns and pretentious facades we never signed up for, the paperwork arriving like an unwelcome intruder, stirring unease as I pored over maps late into the night, wondering how lines on paper could threaten roots sunk deep in the earth, the bureaucratic shuffle feeling like a distant thunder promising upheaval. And that's when Victoria Sterling stormed in, a slick newcomer from the city, all polished ambition and predatory charm, married to a big-shot developer whose card might as well have read, ruiner of rural dreams, her blonde locks defying gravity, cruising in a gleaming SUV that screamed excess, elected HOA boss in record time on a crusade of neighborhood perfection, enforced with zealot fire and zero mercy. Her campaigns filled with glossy brochures promising elevated living that masked her true intent to pave over history for profit. her presence alone evoking a sense of impending doom as she eyed our fields with calculating disdain. The first strike hit like a sucker punch on an ordinary Tuesday, her heels sinking into the mud. As she marched up my drive, wielding a clipboard like a scepter, declaring my grandpa's vintage tractor an eyesore that shattered their precious visual unity, calling our sturdy barn roof a design catastrophe that demanded instant fixes, slapping me with daily fines that could bankrupt a small nation, her words laced with condescension as if I were some clueless rustic unfit for her shiny world, the injustice twisting in my gut like a knife, reminding me of Grandpa's tales about city folks who valued appearances over authenticity, their superficial standards clashing with the raw beauty of worked land. Deep down, I felt the injustice burn. This farm had nourished folks here long before her gated paradise existed, yet she smirked like a victor, ignoring my pleas for reason, forcing me into nights of frantic research on farm rights and old exemptions, the documents murky enough to hide her traps, scrolling through legal forums until my eyes ached, piecing together clauses that offered glimmers of hope amid the legalese fog, each discovery fueling a quiet hope that truth could prevail over manipulation. And though I reached out for a civil chat, she dismissed me like dirt under her designer shoes, her voicemail responses clipped and cold, escalating my resolve to protect what was ours, turning sleepless hours into a forge for strategy. But whispers from my neighbor Eleanor Hayes, a wise septuagenarian who'd seen it all since the moon landing, chilled me to the core, hinting at Victoria's ties to local power players, suggesting this was no petty squabble but a calculated siege on my livelihood, her eyes filled with the kind of knowing sorrow that comes from witnessing too many such battles lost to greed, sharing anecdotes from her own past skirmishes that mirrored our plight. The weight crushed me. This land was our lifeline post-divorce, Lily thriving amid the chores, her laughter echoing as she collected eggs or groomed the horses, teaching her the grit of real life, while medical debts from Grandpa's last days loomed like shadows, hospital bills stacking up as reminders of his final fight, the financial strain adding layers of desperation to our daily struggles, and legal fees. Might as well dream of luxury yachts, yet the thought of Lily losing this haven, her playground of discovery, fueled a quiet rage that simmered beneath my calm exterior, visions of her future tied to this earth driving me forward. Yet rural blood runs stubborn. We don't fold under threats. We dig in. We plot. We turn the tide in ways that leave bullies reeling, drawing on community whispers and old alliances to build our defenses, each small act of resistance building like bricks in a wall. Victoria didn't stop at words. Oh no, she ramped up like a storm-gathering force, lodging complaints with county officials about our overcrowded animals tainting her idyllic suburb. Timing an inspection for Lily's birthday bash of all days, a cruel twist that turned joy into dread as kids frolicked with balloons and cake, the scent of vanilla mingling with hay. From his truck, probing every corner with feigned thoroughness that masked his predetermined verdict, his questions laced with sarcasm that grated on my nerves. But Grandpa's meticulous files saved us. Those ancient permits I unearthed from dusty archives proving our structures were grandfathered in, the yellowed papers feeling like sacred relics as I presented them, watching Greg's arrogance deflate like a popped tire, stammering excuses that held no water, his retreat a small triumph that echoed through the yard, restoring a bit of birthday magic as Lily blew out her candles with renewed hope, the children's cheers a brief respite in the escalating war. And in that victory's glow, I flipped the script, uncovering her own lavish pool edition built sans permits. A glaring hypocrisy I hurled back via complaint, complete with pics and specs snapped under the cover of dusk, the sweet sting of irony hitting home as her standards boomeranged, imagining her face. As she opened that envelope, the tables turning in a way that brought a rare smile to my weary face, a momentary lift in the heavy atmosphere of conflict. That night, Lily asked with wide-eyed curiosity why this lady despised our birds so much, and I shared the hard truth about rules twisted into weapons, a lesson too soon for her innocent heart, holding her close as stars twinkled above, vowing silently to shield her from the world's cruelties as long as I could. our conversation deepening our bond amid the quiet night sounds, while Eleanor dropped by with pie and intel hotter than fresh brew, revealing Victoria's hubby schmoozing officials for land deals, the pieces snapping into a portrait of avarice masked as progress, conversations overheard at town halls painting a web of influence that extended far beyond our fences, her insights like puzzle pieces falling into place. Grandpa's mantra echoed, document everything like a detective, photos and papers your shield against forgetful foes, and as Greg slunk away empty-handed, I sensed the brewing tempest, her failed ploy only fueling deadlier strikes, like the sham HOA meeting she rigged, notifying only her cronies. Hosting in her opulent den amid scented candles and luxury trappings, packing it with yes-men who viewed our farm as a blight, decrying our roosters as psychological warfare, our dust as allergy. Then shattered the illusion by questioning the quorum, her panic flaring as Kentucky laws demanded majority presence for such votes, her gathering a joke without proxies, the silence descending like a heavy curtain as realization dawned on her allies, and I piled on, demanding audits of their books, spotting payouts to her husband's firm, the room emptying like rats from a sinking vessel as corruption's scent filled the air, Victoria adjourning in defeat, but Lily awaited my return, her questions sharpening my resolve to expose bullies by their own games, tucking her in with stories of Grandpa's triumphs to ease her worries, those bedtime tales becoming our ritual of resilience. Jake Harlan, my farming buddy, brought Dawn coffee and town buzz of her humiliation, yet warned of her venom when backed into corners, sharing his own brushes with similar pressures that had nearly cost him his spread years ago, recounting details that mirrored our ordeal and strengthened our alliance. And sure enough, shady suits appeared, snapping pics like spies, her escalation to pro-intimidation, hiring Derek Vance's security firm, linked to her hubby, to stalk our borders. Grilling customers, scaring off buyers with fake warnings, their exhaust tainting our peace, turning loyal patrons like elderly bakers into fleeing shadows, the economic chokehold tightening as sales dipped, forcing me to dip into savings just to keep feed for the animals. Each lost customer a reminder of the human cost in this power play. But preparation was our armor, cameras rolling on every trespass, footage building a case stronger than steel, hours spent reviewing tapes in the dim barn light, noting patterns that revealed coordinated malice, Eleanor revealing her assessor past, labeling their acts as felonies, her voice steady with the authority of experience, sharing procedural tips from her career that honed our approach, Lily logging plates like a mini sleuth. Her childhood stolen by necessity, yet forging her fierce, her notebook filled with details that made me both proud and ache for her lost innocence, her enthusiasm a bittersweet spark in the darkness. And Jake hooked us up with Sofia Ramirez, a farm law shark who'd shredded corporate giants, her sharp eyes scanning our evidence with predatory glee, brainstorming sessions stretching into wee hours, contrasting their cold surveillance, families sharing stories of their own HOA woes around picnic tables, and when journalist Emily Carter captured the bullying, social media ignited sympathy surging for our plight, posts sharing our story far and wide, drawing messages of support from distant farms facing the same shadows, the viral wave building momentum we hadn't anticipated. But tension mounted as recon intensified, signaling her doomsday ploy, late nights watching monitors for signs of intrusion, paranoia creeping in like fog. Then Eleanor's archive dive unearthed the rot, land grabs via shells encircling us, plans to pave our legacy into amenity lots, emails with Commissioner Thomas Whitaker plotting our demise for millions in gains, the scale of fraud hitting like a gut punch, printed pages spread across her table like a map of betrayal, other farms squeezed by hikes and probes, a syndicate of deceit to force cheap sales, the connections weaving a tapestry of corruption that spanned years, each revelation deepening the sense of systemic injustice. The betrayal seethed in me, our soil's history dismissed for profit, Lily's fears of loss echoing. Grandpa's depression tales, her small voice trembling as she clutched her favorite hen, tears welling in a moment that broke my heart anew. Jake sharing his own pressures, but Eleanor's nudge too. A surge of empowerment cutting through the despair, Sophia beaming at the shift, plotting probes into their permits, Jake rallying a coalition of farmers in my barn, hay-scented strategy sessions. With vets like Surveyor Jim Torres exposing easement breaches, leveraging Kentucky's farm shields for triple damages, eyeing IRS hits on their nonprofit scams, corporate flaws screaming laundering. The group buzzing with shared outrage and tactical plans late into the night, forging friendships born of adversity. Lily's kid network spied, #spread, Emily's series amplified. Crowdfunding flowed from kindred spirits, volunteers swarmed, and ethically, I'd recuse on my land, appointing impartial panels, but their projects? Now under my ethical scrutiny, delays looming like Justice's blade, the power shift invigorating yet heavy with responsibility, each decision weighed against the family's future. Word of my role leaked, Victoria's fury unleashing smears of bias. Before I'd acted, anonymous gripes flooding AG departments with bogus claims, our water systems sabotaged with leaks and fuel taints threatening certification, the pond's oily sheen a heartbreaking sight under moonlight, a violation that stirred primal anger, tickets on private drives eroding business, her terror systematic. Yet my old pal Inspector Mike Sullivan sniffed the fiction. His probe exposing lawyer-drafted lies, reminiscing over old college days as he cleared us, his support a lifeline in the chaos. Panels demanded studies stalling her empire, her rants at my fence. Caught on cam, unraveling poise, forensics tying contamination to Derek's gear, community rallying with vigils and patrols, FBI sniffing RICO trails from our docks, ethics probes on Whitaker. Charges stacking like hay bales, the web tightening as allies shared more intel, each breakthrough a step toward liberation. But predators lash out, her siege the pinnacle of rage, those 10 bulldozers trapping us at dawn, Victoria proclaiming quarantine, streaming her triumph, animals suffering, Lily counter-streaming heartbreak, the air thick with dread and diesel, my calm masking. Sheriff John Harlan leading the charge with welfare crews, prosecutors, feds, dissecting her sham as news beamed live. Victoria screeching defenses that crumbled under demands for proof. Her empire exposed, papers fluttering in the wind like confessions, her facade cracking under the weight of scrutiny, and as I revealed my directorship, declaring emergency preservation. Suspending her permits, unveiling fraud chains, her confession spilled on air amid screams, arrests for cruelty and detention snapping cuffs, feds seizing records, operators fleeing complicity. Derek's firm charged, Whitaker probed, the blockade crumbling to cheers, Jake leading anthems, Eleanor weeping pride, Sophia serving suits, the crowds roar a symphony of vindication as animals drank. Free, hashtags exploding, our stand a beacon for rural fights, the relief washing over me like rain after drought, Lily's embrace grounding me in the victory's reality, tears of joy mingling with the morning dew. 6 months on, closure wrapped us warm as summer sun, Victoria guilty, fines fueling farm aids, her husband's realm revoked amid fraud trials, Whitaker ousted for Laura Bennett's honest reign, HOA axed for a friendly group of shared meals, our land thriving as an education hub with grants, kids marveling at roots, scholarships blooming, Lily's essay famed, Eleanor our chronicler. Co-ops premium, festivals bridging divides, nonprofits saving spread statewide, laws reformed citing us, my dual roles teaching service over greed, Lily eyeing law to shield farms, bonds. Unbreakable, proving heritage's worth in sustainable tomorrows, the sunsets affirming battles won through records, unity, rights, David's prep toppling Goliaths, the expanded community ties now, including workshops where farmers shared strategies, turning our ordeal into a blueprint for resilience that echoed across valleys, inspiring tales passed down like grandpa's stories, ensuring the cycle of protection continued unbroken. But was this justice pure, or does power's taste tempt corruption even in the righteous? Where do we draw lines between defense and vengeance?